What's up, guys? Ryan from Cortex Labs, livecortex.com, where we talk about performance optimization from the perspective of the brain, primarily using nootropics, as well as energy and hormonal optimization, primarily from optimizing testosterone. But as I have seen from your guys' feedback, you guys really like when I talk about other stuff too, like mindset and achievement and just having that conquer energy in life. So we're gonna be talking a lot about more of that stuff in the future. Today we're going to talk about IDRA-21. Okay, so I've been getting emails, comments, and messages for probably about 3-4 months to talk about IDRA-21, and I had to honestly get it for myself, sample it, see how it affected my cognition throughout the day, get some clients using it and having them test it and see what their responses were, have various sort of use cases and combination cases of stacking it with like modafinil and racetams, etc., before I was actually comfortable talking about it. So I've gone through all that experimentation and now I'm very comfortable discussing it. We're going to discuss a lot of things, mechanisms of action, the dose range for the compound, my individual experience, long-term use, what the monkey studies are saying about it, and then we're going to go through a bunch of Reddit anecdotals to give you guys some sense of comfort about taking it, as well as what you can potentially expect from it. So first, let's just quickly talk about the mechanism of action. As far as anyone can tell, all IDRA-21 is really doing is enhancing long-term potentiation between synapses through modifying the AMPA receptor, which is in some sense what aniracetam is doing, minus the cholinergic effects. Now, aniracetam will make you release a little more brain acetylcholine, and that'll give you some more focus and memory, but the long-term potentiation essentially helps neurons communicate better, and the strength between the communication of those neurons is enhanced when long-term potentiation is being facilitated. The opposite of long-term potentiation in the brain is a phrase called long-term depression, wherein the neuronal communication via synaptic strength is very low. It modifies the AMPA receptor allosterically, so it'll basically attenuate any desensitization of the receptor, which is really, really cool. And we like to look for that kind of stuff in nootropics because it just means that there's a potential for longer term use without tolerance problems stemming or creeping up. So that's essentially what it's doing. Let's talk about the dose range. The dose range, from my perspective, is 5 to 20 milligrams. 5 to 20 milligrams. Now, I would not really even go up to 20 if you don't need to. Again, as I've talked about on all the Nootropics courses that we have and just a lot of the videos that I've posted in the past, you want to start low, see how you fare, and then work your way up to the highest tolerable dose for you. So that may not even be 20 milligrams for you. The highest tolerable dose for you may be 13 milligrams, after which you either get a headache or some sort of strange side effect or whatever. My dose is right around 7 milligrams of it. You're probably gonna fare best in the 5 to 10 milligram range of IDRA-21. Let's talk about my experience. Now look, I am the type of dude that optimizes every element of my physiology, from obviously testosterone to my sleep to my energy to everything that I put in my body. Just careful thought about how it's going to affect me. I mean, like even cheat days, like where I cheat on my kind of regular diet or whatever, like I make sure that the ensuing day and even that night that there's not a lot of cognitive tasks that I have to do because, cheat days actually mess with my brain performance. So my performance is pretty dialed in, and, from baseline, I feel pretty remarkable most of the time. And what IDRA-21 does for me is specifically it works on the memory, the functional working memory side of my brain, right? That element of brain function is at baseline fine, but it could always use enhancement. And there is a lot of really, really cool sort of business planning, mapping out some of the future plans for Cortex Labs and how we're going to do the Torque launch, our next nootropic stack, and hosts of other things. Like doing that sort of mental mapping is a lot easier with IDRA-21. I guess run-of-the-mill sort of logistics or administrative stuff that I may have to personally tend to, that the admin can't tend to related to Cortex Labs, it seems to be a lot easier to do it, to kind of bounce back and forth between some of the administrative stuff that I've got to do with IDRA-21 in the mix. It's like I feel as if I don't forget anything. and I kind of have a good pulse on exactly where I am on which task. And if I have to switch from one task to another, but then that requires like I go back to the previous task, like I have an easier time doing that. Generally, my ability to hold information in my kind of cognitive memory, right, that working functional memory is a lot easier with using IDRA-21. I would in fact compare it to, if I was to compare it to another nootropic, I'd compare it to the effects of aniracetam, but just with less stimulation. Because with aniracetam, you're stimulating choline release, and that tends to be kind of more excitatory. With IDRA-21, you're really not stimulating choline release as far as anyone can tell. So it's a little less stimulating, but the really cool thing about it is like, instead of it being a stimulant, it's actually just a compound that makes your brain work noticeably better without the stimulant effect, which is really cool. So if you've got good baseline energy as it stands, then having that extra memory effect would be like really awesome. So if you wanted to optimize baseline energy, one option would be the Cortex stack. So I've tried this too. If you just take 2 capsules of the Cortex stack, have some coffee, you're in for a good time in terms of brain performance and function. Now, if you got to that point where you were functioning really awesomely and had good energy, but needed a bump of working memory, then IDRA-21 would be like a really, really good combination. I have stacked it with Cortex before, and that's basically what it does. Cortex is kind of like a get up and go, get you energized, get your brain motivated to do stuff, improve verbal fluency, improve general brain function. But then stacking IDRA-21 on top of it just kind of adds this extra functionality, and particularly in the working memory department. Additionally, look, I've stacked it with other sort of stimulant-like compounds because, again, in and of itself, it's not very stimulating, but a good use case for it is taking a stimulating nootropic stack or individual compound and then bringing the IDRA-21 in to just sort of add that other functionality of memory and better cognition. So the long-term use of this stuff is actually really unclear. I'm gonna get to some Reddit anecdotals, which is pretty much all we have aside from some monkey studies and some other papers on this chemical. My definitive statement about whether or not to use it long-term would be, don't use it any more than 3 times weekly. It seems as if people can get away with dosing it 3 times a week without issue, right? Maybe taking it by itself, stacking it with other things. It really depends on what your strategy is going to be. You know, with new chemicals that come on the mix and are being studied for Alzheimer's and then, you know, have potential nootropic benefits, you just want to kind of take it easy and play it safe and just, you know, and not be taking it every day. So let's talk about some studies first. In monkey studies, right? So these are primates, and their brain makeup and the way that they respond to chemicals is somewhat similar to how humans respond. In fact, I would argue probably more similar than how mice react, especially because you get to observe them in a different kind of capacity. I mean, this is a 4-limbed, you know, primate that's brains are somewhat close to our brains. In fact, you know, remarkably close. And the primary outcome of the monkey studies is that they were able to enhance the function of visual matching and memory pattern recognition, as well as visual matching. You know, so if you see 2 shapes or 2 colors or 2 objects that are similar, you know, the monkey has a better ability to identify which things are similar versus not. And then in terms of patterns, I mean, I don't know exactly what they were using in this particular study, but the monkey was sort of better at developing patterns and understanding patterns, which is really, really interesting. And that does indicate, like, I mean, a lot of IQ testing is actually based on functional working memory, and there's a lot of sort of pattern stuff that's happening in there. And so it would make sense that, you know, pattern recognition and all things kind of pattern related in the way that working memory is functioning is enhanced with IDRA-21. So let's get to some Reddit anecdotals on the compound. These are real people that have taken IDRA-21 and kind of just commented on what, you know, it did to them and how it affected them. Here's one that goes, recently started taking this around 10 milligrams, 2 days, I guess he's referring to 2 days a week, and it's awesome. Lots of motivation and focus, no real side effects, and concentration is sharp and clear. There's another anecdotal that goes 5 milligrams IDRA-21, 5 milligrams PRL, he's referring to PRL 853, twice a day for 18 months. So this is not something that I would suggest you guys do, but this was this guy's, you know, personal anecdotal. And he says, apart from being expensive, has no side effects. Improvements in memory and cognition are felt. I am dyslexic, So I can't not remember phone numbers without writing things down. Now I can. This is especially helpful in my job, which is remembering IPv4 addresses in stressful moments. This also applies to spelling of unfamiliar words, i.e. host names. Very interesting. Now, he was stacking it with PRL 853, 5 milligrams each. That's something I have not done before, but considering they're kind of both working on the functional working memory side, I think that may be useful for you folks. One of the things that I have seen that I didn't personally experience, but that I wanted to warn you guys about is there are people talking about taking it either too long and too high of a dose, or just ordinarily getting an irritability response from it. So there's this one Reddit anecdotal that goes, can anyone comment on IDRA-21's irritability or how they manage it with such a long half-life? And there's somebody that responds and says, there is some irritability at times and I use L-theanine to manage it. The long half-life is solved by taking 10 milligrams 2 days a week for me. This is probably the same person that commented before about taking 10 milligrams twice a week. But I guess, yeah, just like anything else that may overstimulate excitatory neurotransmission or kind of just pump up brain function in general, there may come irritability with it, in which case L-theanine is actually one of the best strategies to have just sort of in the background. 100 milligrams to 300 milligrams of L-theanine. If you feel irritable, great. If IDRA-21, it's going to make you feel somewhat irritable but still improve your brain performance from your previous uses of it, then just take it with 100 milligrams to 300 milligrams of L-theanine. Lastly, I'll read you what is probably one of the most comprehensive kind of reviews of it out there on the web, and it's called A Little Surprised Just How Much IDRA-21 Does For Me. And it goes like this. Hi, Lurker here. You guys are neat. We're neat. We're neat in the nootropic community. Hi, man. I'm pretty neat, dude. There are a few more reports now than there were a while ago, but I still don't hear much about IDRA-21, so I thought I'd throw my hat into the ring. I have a stack of little things that work for me. Solbutamine, C-Max, a bit of Adderall, and to help with brain fog I've had since I was little, but I was shocked how much IDRA-21 does for me. I can go without the others for days and often keep an even keel, but instantly notice when the IDRA-21 is missing. Which actually brings up a great point, because there's a lot of nootropics for which, like, you notice them when you're taking them, but at the same time, the moment you remove them from your regimen, you kind of notice it more. Like, I had been doing Alcar for every day for a considerable period of time, many months, 400 milligrams in the morning. And I am back to doing that now, but there was it a week and a half or something where I took Alcar out of the morning regimen experimentally, and I did notice the difference in my morning energy. It was just a little less of that get up and go type of energy. Guy goes on to say, I've been on it for about 2 months, and what I notice is very similar to the studies done with primates. There's some enhanced ability to remember things from a long time ago, little dribbles of things I've done before which are similar to what I'm doing today, which help me avoid pitfalls I've strolled into otherwise. Now, this is actually a really, really important point, but also you could extrapolate that out to life. And it's the basis for why a lot of people continually run into the same issues in their lives, like even in their relationships or whatever. It's because they're not really learning from experiences in a way that solidifies the notion that, like, they should be staying away from a particular type of behavior, a particular type of person, or a particular type of situation. So, having the working memory to, like, learn from things that go wrong and change your behavior is actually pretty rad. He goes on to say, I'd normally sit down to work and do IT stuff and think that I knew what I was hoping to accomplish, but then I'd get up at the end of the day and realize I'd went off on a wild goose chase after a bug or something, and I could only claim I did relevant work if I really, really twisted what happened. I was great at optimism, but I did get tired of making excuses. Pretty fucking manipulative, bro. With IDRA-21, I don't have to make an effort to remember why I'm awake each day. Instead of having to try to remember, the information is just always there at zero subjective perceived thinking cost. This is really interesting because, yeah, there can certainly be times where you kind of veer away from your objective, and having good working memory is kind of a part of keeping that kind of brain process intact. The last thing I want to touch, because this guy actually has a super long anecdotal, and you can go read it by Google searching, A Little Surprised Just How Much IDRA-21 Does For Me, is he goes, when IDRA-21 is gone, it's gone. There isn't a withdrawal in the classical sense of experiencing the opposite of the benefits, almost like being punished. Instead, it's just not there anymore, and I'm on my own again. I wish all nootropics made it so obvious when they stopped working. A distinct exit really is a way to prove there was actually a benefit. Overall, I would say that like if there was one compound besides aniracetam that this is pretty comparable to, in terms of a lot of people's experiences, somewhat in terms of my experience and maybe in terms of your experience, it would be PRL-853. Aside from aniracetam, it'd be PRL-853 because that's the other kind of research chemical that's out there that improves working memory in a noticeable way and like bumps up cognition to where you're like, like I am noticeably functioning better here. Overall, I think the compound is safe to use. Again, I wouldn't take it any more than 3 days a week. You want to start low at the 5 milligram area, work your way up to perhaps 15 or 20 if you absolutely need to, but I have a suspicion that for a lot of people, just using it to improve cognition and memory, that you're not going to need to go all the way up to 20 milligrams. And you're probably going to find a perfect sweet spot between like 5 and 15 milligrams of it. So I mentioned a couple products during this video. Number one, the Cortex stack. This is our nootropic stack. It's been around for just about 7 years now. It is a very, very powerful motivation, mental energy, verbal fluency, get your will to work sort of elevated type of nootropic stack. Cortex is very unique because like when I had first developed Cortex, it was just one of my go-to stacks many, many years ago. First of all, I was like, how has no one put uridine, CDP choline, and artichoke extract together in a stack? Because I found something that was comparable to modafinil in using the Cortex stack. But secondly, I was just very impressed by how consistently it improved my general brain function, gave me energy, made me motivated, and also made me a lot more verbally fluent. Like that's hard to find in a nootropic that's doing all of that stuff. That's why Cortex is so unique and so epic. It's a perfect synergy of uridine monophosphate, citicholine, artichoke extract, and Bacopa monnieri. The best option to perform at your peak as a hard-charging individual for the Cortex nootropic stack is to get it shipped to your doorstep every 30 days. Auto ship is actually cheaper and it gives you the opportunity to always have Cortex around. Having that stuff around in a pinch, having it when you need that epic brain performance, just taking a couple capsules and turning on every facet of brain function is a very useful thing to be able to do. So go buy a bottle of Cortex, livecortex.com. You can buy a singular bottle of it just to try the stack, but most people are gonna really, really love the stack. In fact, I think there's a 94% initial success rate with it. Like 94% of people that take it go like, wow, like very noticeable, very awesome stack. This is really interesting. So you are better off, especially if you want to get it cheaper, just doing the auto ship option because you can cancel it anytime you want to. If you want to learn more about how nootropics work, how to use them, how to get really good performance from them, how to formulate nootropic stacks, how to adjust nootropic stacks, right? And how to ultimately get better results than most of the folks that you're going to see on the web, there are Nootropics courses that I wrote, filmed, and created that teach you from whatever level you're at how to use nootropics. So go check those out at livecortex.com. Probably the most stack-ridden courses are the Nootropics Masterclass and the Nootropics God course. I mean, those are two very, very powerful high-level nootropics courses that both have stacks and show you how to use nootropics like experts use nootropics. If you need my help personally, I am a consultant on a variety of areas related to performance. Number one, obviously nootropics. I will help you formulate your stacks, give you direction on where you need to go, possibly even, depending on which consulting option you select, design an entire nootropic regimen for you. Testosterone, if you're needing to enhance testosterone, or if you just need direction on where to go. Maybe you should go on TRT. Maybe you should run gonadotropin hacking strategies. We do consulting on that. Let's get on a call and we will handle it. Business productivity and achievement. That is one thing that I am bringing into the sort of roster of things that I can consult on. I mean, I've been doing it for years. It's just not something I thought I could consult people on. But the more and more I communicate with those of you that are in the audience here, that watch the videos and that interact with our content and buy our products, the more that I recognize that a lot of you are achievers, a lot of you are hard-charging individuals, or would like to be, right? So when it comes to entrepreneurship or business or anything related to moving forward in life, I can consult you on how to at least certainly get the best brain performance to do it, but also on the philosophical and strategical side, on the tactical side of doing those things, I can consult you on that stuff as well. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Please subscribe to the channel if you're new, or if you haven't subscribed. Apparently you got to hit the subscribe button and you have to hit the bell to get notified of everything that we do, because we pump out at least 2 videos a week, usually more. And now that we're branching into other topics like achievement and entrepreneurship and focus and drive and being a productive, hard-charging individual in life, there's going to be more videos than 2 or 3 a week. So look forward to that. Live streams coming up soon. It's been a pleasure being with you folks. Announcements coming on Torque, which I think is launching, or at least it'll be completed from the factory somewhere around the 21st of July. So that's this month, in 20 days. I am so excited for that nootropic supplement. It is a very, very powerful stack. Not for the faint of heart. Look forward to announcements coming on that. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you guys, and I'll talk to you soon.